Good morning and welcome to the Flow Driven CEO podcast. I can say good morning because I have a David Galombik from Sydney and I'm in Melbourne. So we are on the same time zone. Welcome to the show, David.
Thank you, Belinda. Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Yeah, you too. Now, can I ask you one question? Is the sun shining in Bondi?
Actually, it is not. It is weirdly a cold for summer day in Sydney.
Oh,
It's
there
windy
you
and
go.
cold, which is disappointing, but we had good weather over the weekend. That was
Yeah,
great, which
that's
is
it.
great.
Yeah, you've got the summer vibe going on. We're coming into the last month. It's sunny here, so it's always good. I always like Sydney generally has better weather than Melbourne, everybody. So, like there you go. Well, I've been looking
And
forward to this
confirm.
conversation though, because when I had a look at your profile and when you responded to my question, I was like, oh, this is going to be an interesting conversation. Let's start with you're a bit of a guru in the creator economy space. You've been playing in it and building in it, but building tools in it for the past 4 years, which the creator economy is just becoming more and more and more, I guess, high profile, right? And like new world, if you ask me, and
Totally.
I'm all about it and, building what I'm building. And yeah, I'm looking forward to, I think I'm going to get a lot of insight myself today. You're the co-founder and CEO of Persona, and essentially you only launched it 4 months ago. So it's a bit of a baby. You
Yeah,
had
we're
a previous business, let's just call it a bit of a lab, if you like, and I'm using that phrase because you had a previous company with your co-founders called Peddler, where by the sounds of things, you said you interviewed thousands and thousands of people to understand, the requirements and the infrastructure required, or should I say, operating system for the creator economy, and then you, based on everything you, I guess, researched and gathered in Peddler, you then started Persona. And essentially, Persona is an operating system that has, is it 20 million global content creators,
there's
whereby,
about 200 million
oh,
global
sorry, 200.
content.
200. I had
Yeah,
I crossed out one of the
yeah.
zeros. Sorry, 200 million content creators, and you're working with them in terms of the tools and to build out the operating system. You were previously an investment director at Kaba and an investment banker in leverage and acquisition finance at ANZ and UBS. And when you booked in for the pod and I asked you what's one unique insight or leaf experience when it comes to life, leadership and or business, I really loved this. It said it's better to be a wrong optimist than a right pessimist. So yes to that. Love it. I've probably got a little bit, not quite right with regards to my explanation, but I'm going to hand it over to you. Tell us about your journey because it's quite fascinating. You finance background, then Kaba, then moving into this creator economy space. How did it
Yeah.
all unfold? And I should say you're also a father of two, aren't you? Two little ones.
Yeah, two little ones,
Yeah.
6-year-old and a 4-year-old. So
Yeah.
very busy.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So maybe starting kind of from very early days, I guess when I left school, I loved mathematics. So I went to study mathematics and finance at the University of Sydney. And then when I left, I was kind of thought, what's a good place to start a career um, where I could learn a lot. So I started, I guess, a career in investment banking, which was a great place to start because I very much got a very quick understanding of how businesses work, working with obviously very kind of high performing people. Um, but I always wanted to get into business myself and I guess startups. So I kind of always saw investment banking almost as a means to an end. And then I left UBS and went to a startup at the time, which was called Kaba, which is a car subscription business. And I grew with Kaba for a few years. And then my business partner, who happens to be my brother-in-law,
Ah,
reached out,
family.
family, so obviously know him very well. So reached out, and his background is digital marketing and advertising, kind of similar to yours. And he was basically came up with this idea at the time, which was very much in the creator economy. So it was Peddler, which was basically digital storefronts for content creators. And it was sounded super interesting. So we kind of dived into that. And I guess the consistent patterns we were seeing kind of over the few years that we built Peddler was that the biggest demand that content creators have is for brand deals, so paid brand deals. We also found that brands are spending a ton of money on brand deals. So to give you some numbers, I guess last year there was about 35 billion US dollars spent by brands on
Wow.
content on paid content collaborations. Um, but there was this lack of, I guess, infrastructure that helped content creators land these brand deals. So really, that was kind of the genesis of how we got to Persona. And so really so when we started double clicking on how these content creators were landing brand deals, there was kind of broadly speaking two ways content creators land brand deals. So one is around what we call audience monetization. So if you think about audience monetization, that's very much things like affiliate links, things like when creators sell kind of programs to their audience, or where they have like a subscription to their audience, or like a Patreon subscription. And so that's what we call audience monetization. But the learnings, and that's very much where Peddler was positioned. So as a creator would make money through selling goods through their storefront. But the learning that we found from audience monetization is, if you think about it, it's very much a traditional kind of e-com sales funnel. So the creator is kind of limited to the size of their audience, and then if you think about the maths and how the algorithms work, only 15% of their audience would see the affiliate link, and then if you kind of get it down, it's a lot of effort for the creator to actually monetize through their audience. So that was kind of so that really means that the audience monetization is great for the bigger content creators, but it's very hard for the smaller content creators to make consistent income through their audience. And then the other main way they land deals is through paid brand deals. Now, in the paid brand deal space, really the two main ways creators kind of land these deals, one is through kind of inbound, so a brand reaching out to a creator. But once again, that's kind of very ad hoc, very sporadic. And two is around these, what we call these marketplace apps. So you might have heard things like The Right Fit, Tribe,
Yeah.
where a brand posts a brief and the creators apply to them. The issue creators have with that is there are lots of these marketplace apps. So there's probably 30 or 40 globally, which means that the creators have to sit across multiple applications, right? And it's very manual for them to kind of constantly apply. It's also the issue is, and I'm not sure if you've ever kind of used something like an Upwork or a Fiverr, but it's when a brand posts a collaboration, thousands of creators are applying to it. So really what that means is super competitive for the creators,
Yeah.
which then means the brands drop their price, and which then means kind of creators get underpaid. So putting that all together, what we identified was the one way creators wanted to reach brands but weren't doing it because of, I guess, limitations, was around outreach into brands. So that's effectively cold outreach into brands. And what we were learning was creators had the desire to do that. And so they would, do things. They would, try and find the right person at the brand, whether it's the social media manager or the brand manager. But it would be a very manual process. And they couldn't really scale that out. So when it comes to cold outreach, kind of the principles are, you need to find the right contact. You need to be sending lots of emails or lots of pitches, and you need to be sending them very personalized. So really, that was, after all those learnings, what that really meant was we built out a tool, our first our beta test, I guess, which was an AI automation tool for outreach for content creators. So basically, today content creators can automate all their outreach to brands through our platform.
Yeah, cool.
And that's our first version. I guess we're in the process of also releasing our second kind of AI agent, which is one that sits across those marketplaces. So as I mentioned, the creators have difficulty tracking it, being across all those marketplaces. So really, we are building an agent that will sit across all those marketplaces and help the creators apply to those marketplaces.
So essentially, like for me, in the most simplest, the way I'm listening and hearing this is it's almost like a really disconnected infrastructure operating system, if you like, for creators. And it's also it's costly, it's timely, it's inefficient essentially. And so what you're doing is you're optimizing the whole entire thing so that you actually can, make more, you can monetize more, it can become way more efficient for you, like less time intensiveness, if that's even a word. You know what I'm trying to say here? It's
I
Monday
totally
morning.
know what you're trying to say. Yeah.
And also the fact that you're interconnecting an ecosystem that hasn't really been interconnected before, but by the sounds of things in the way you're putting it together.
Yeah, totally. I guess probably just to double click on that, I think one of the key learnings we have is content creators want more brand deals because they are shifting away from kind of being hobbyists to professionals. So they
Yeah.
are starting to pay for tools. They are really focusing on trying to have a steady income through their content. But even though they want brand deals, they actually don't love the process of finding it because they're content creators, right? They want to be making content. They're creatives. They don't love that business side of it. So that's kind of to kind of build on what you were saying. That's kind of a key lesson that we've found.
Yeah, okay. So you're almost like the brand guardian as well, helping them like from a brand guardian perspective also, like in terms of, because creatives and deals and, connecting and ensuring, because what comes up for me is this authenticity piece as well, right? Like in terms of as a creator, and the minute you start, doing brand building and I guess deals, etc. Like, is this like, have you done like in terms of research and understanding, I guess, the intersection of the brand and the creator and ensuring it remains authentic, you know what I'm saying?
Authentic.
Authentic.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh
yeah,
my
yeah,
gosh.
yeah.
In terms of just the partnership, like, because, quite often you'll see, a creator, if you like, they start off, like you say, as a hobby, and then all of a sudden they start to get this traction. And, sometimes you notice that they start to lose what they were originally about, and it becomes a bit too Sally Brandy, if that makes sense. Like,
No, totally.
yeah,
So yeah, really good point. So, and that's obviously a big focus, both from the brand and the creator side, to be
yeah,
honest, because a lot of creators don't want to just work with brand, like any brand, right? They want to work with brands that kind of suit their niche, their, values, etc. Um, but so as part of what we're building with our kind of outbounding agents is we're building this intelligence layer which actually matches creators and brands. And so what I mean by that is
yeah,
today in our product, our brand database consists of about over 120,000 brands. And but we take a lot of data points. We use a bunch of AI to basically identify whether the brand works with creators and what type of creators they're working with.
yeah,
So, for example, we in our database we identify is a brand running Facebook ads because if they're running Facebook ads or Meta ads means they have some kind of indication that they work with content creators. Is the brand on an affiliate network? Um, so we collect a whole bunch of rich data points about the brand. Similar, and then on the other side is on the creator side. So we take a, so the creators we integrate directly with the creators Instagram and TikTok, and we basically identify a whole bunch of I guess data points. So on a basic level, what type of niche the creator it focuses on. What type of brands they work with they've worked with in the past. What type of brands they want to work with in the future, and basically we then feed back to the creator and say you should reach out to these 100 brands because they align with you. So I guess that's a long way of saying is yes, we do kind of use this intelligence layer to try and ensure that the brands the creators are reaching out to do very much match them, and therefore will kind of have that authentic content as a result.
yeah. So interesting. The creator economy, it's not going anywhere. It's massive, right? Like it's just becoming bigger and bigger
Yeah.
and bigger. And the fact you called out, it's no longer just a hobby anymore. Like like my background, like I said to you, is advertising communications, and even like with the podcast that I've been doing, it's like there's all these new forms of brand building, I hate using the word advertising if you like, but this is just really, really new world order. And, when you think about the attention economy and everything else, like in going hand in hand, like what are you seeing as some of the bigger, I guess, macro themes that are coming up as part of this creator economy and all the research that you guys have done. I mean, you've been playing in it for the last 4 years. Are you seeing anything that we're going to see more of, this year and in the next couple of years, given how fast AI is, coming at us? I'm going to
Yeah.
put the optimistic hat on in the best possible way. Like
Yeah.
what do you see?
Yeah, it's big question. Lots to unpack there. So to kind of start off, I guess, with some of the numbers. So as I mentioned, creator economy currently is about 200 million creators.
Yeah.
Um, which I mean, if you in factor everything in, it's over $500 billion. That's growing 22%, about 22% annually every year. So it's growing very fast. Um, in terms of the themes that we're seeing, so probably one of the main themes we're seeing is around these creators wanting to become a kind of shifting from hobbyists to professionals. Um, and so that, as I mentioned, that's things like they're starting to go full time or part time content creators. They're really focused on monetization of their content. So, like in practical terms, what does that mean? They're spending less time trying to produce content that's just going to get them views and followers, and they're trying to now spending more time trying to either land brand deals or make content that's more kind of brand deal focused or monetization focused. Um, the next theme we are seeing, and it's also in the numbers, is there has been a big shift in advertising spend from corporates, in particular enterprise corporates, from your traditional paid ads, so traditional Meta, etc., to content creators. Um, and that's been happening and like it's been accelerating over the past few years because these almost every type of business, whether it's a small business or a large business, understands that content creators have an amazing ability to distribute to their audience.
Yeah.
So they're very much a distribution channel for businesses. And why, if you kind of double click on why that is obviously these content creators have the trust of their audience, right? So people follow people that they trust or they aspire to be. So because they've got this distribution, a lot of businesses are seeing the value in them, and that's kind of shown in the numbers. I think last year, 2025, there was about a 1.5 times increase on brands on from brands on spending on content creators. And as I said, a lot of that money is being shifted from paid ads to like influencer marketing or content creation marketing. Probably the other thing worth calling out is you mentioned obviously this AI piece. So what we're seeing with AI and I guess where we think it's going to go from in the world of kind of the creator economy is so probably a few things. One is the AI, the cost for brands to make like more stock type content. So whether that's, stuff they use on their website, etc. That very much AI can solve that, right? And I mean, not really today, but probably in the nearest future. But what that means is that frees up a lot of the brand's budget for other types of marketing,
Yeah.
and and where the brands will shift their marketing is into content influencer marketing or
Mm.
content creators, right? Because once again, there's this trust and distribution piece. Those content creators have access to thousands of potential customers for the brand. And in this world of AI, I think that trust factor actually becomes more important, right? Because
Agreed.
when you're kind of as a consumer bombed with all this AI content, you're like, okay, well, where's content that I can actually trust? And it's like, okay, well, it's actually, Bell's podcast or somewhere where I know it's a real human that is kind of talking. So I think content creators become more valuable in a world with more AI video,
Mm.
and they become more valuable for everyone.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? It's so fascinating, like in terms of just the reshaping of it all. And like, really interesting that you talk about this trust and distribution piece and, like these creators and the opportunities at large. Tell us a little bit about, startup world and, because like you did all this research and, I kind of like and I don't look at it like a hobby sort of thing, but like, when you're in research mode, you kind of going, when is this going to convert into something? So you kind of almost like, you can somewhat compare it to a creator. And then the monetization piece, right? And like you guys have
Yeah.
been, like from a peddler perspective and now, with Persona, like, and you've come from this background in finance, and you said it was like almost like you're, getting the foundations to be able to put you into where you are now. What's been the biggest probably challenges for you in startup? And also
Yeah.
that you work with your brother-in-law, because how do you separate like family and work and all that sort of stuff? Like it's quite fascinating.
Yeah.
How do you juggle it?
Yeah. So, well, great question and big question. So I guess probably a few parts there. So first thing in terms of that kind of migration from corporate world to startup world, um, yeah, it was quite obviously big. I think corporate world, one thing, especially kind of investment banking, where you're kind of working obviously very long hours, very hard. So that transition to startup, what you're doing the same when when you run your own business. So that actually kind of in a good way made that
Yeah,
transition quite easy. But I guess on the flip side, when you're a startup world, you kind of have to do everything. So going from a very big corporate world where you've got like if your computer's not working, you email the
I
IT
know.
department, and you're like, why is this not working? So I think so like that aspect was obviously a learning curve in terms of like I got to go in, having my own business. If I have an issue, I've got to figure it out. Um, so like that helped. In terms of I think in terms of like the learnings from Peddler to Persona, I think, and like this research thing. So I think like, well, so with Peddler, we very much, I think the best way to learn is having a product in market, right? So, and
Yeah,
we very much did that with Peddler, and we kind of got a product in market. We had creators were loving it, brands were loving it, but we saw the bigger opportunity into where Persona, where we got to with Persona. That's kind of why that was kind of the evolution. Um, so I think on that research piece, I think, as I said, having a real tool in market is the most important thing.
yeah,
I think on that research thing, so to kind of give you some numbers, we like speak to and have always spoke to, proper customer interviews, 5 to 7 a week. And that's like a structured interview with customers because we're just constantly getting a feedback loop
so
of what we're
good.
building.
Yeah,
And then there's obviously the data piece. So, looking at the numbers. So to give you some numbers in terms of today, where we're at with Persona, we've had, over 3,500 kind of people signing up. We've had over 35,000 emails being sent through the platform. That's about
wow,
500 a day.
it's huge.
And we've had about a conversion rate of free to paid on active users of about 14-15%, which is like very high for kind of freemium tools. But so I think it's important to speak to customers for that qualitative, but also obviously look at the data. So we're looking at things like how much are people actually using the platform? How we're looking at like, are they getting replies from brands? Because to your point earlier, the utility of the platform is so dependent on connecting the creator with the brand, i.e. the brand replying positively
Yeah,
saying, yeah, let's explore this. So we kind of make sure we looking at all the data and seeing kind of the patterns. Um, so that's probably that kind of research piece. And then to answer your last question on how is it with my brother-in-law and kind of the family dynamics. So I think first and foremost, it's fantastic because I've known Josh for a long time. And so there's like this built-in trust already. And I think when it comes to a um, founders relationship, I think fundamentally the most important thing is trust.
100%.
Um, and I guess just to also clarify that we do have our third co-founder, Brandon, who's kind of our technical co-founder. And for context, I went to school with Brandon, so I've also known him for
Oh, wow.
15 years. So like the team, we very much trust each other. There's no problem there. I think to answer the question about like how do we, and I think this is what you were implying before, but how do we not talk about work all the time at every family
Yes.
event?
That's what I was
That
implying. I was hoping you would come to that, but that was a good way to just straight out say it. Yeah.
No. Very fair question. Because when we started Peddler, 4 whatever years ago, we had that issue to the point where my wife and they were kind of, and Josh's wife were kind of like, guys, we would go on a family holiday, and the family holiday would just be talking about work. And but it got to a point where like our wives. The founder was kind of like, guys, like you need to tone this
Turn
down.
it down.
um, but which I think we've actually gotten much better. I think as we've grown, etc. That we're quite good at now, kind of compartmentalizing work, family.
Yeah, good work. Like it's hard. Like it is hard
It is
because
hard.
sometimes
It's
when
very
you're
hard.
like, if you think about when you're on holidays and you're getting those fresh perspectives, and then if you're with your business partner, you might be chill, having like a cocktail or a mocktail by the pool, and then all of a sudden something drops in. You're like, they're there, bang, I've got this idea. Like, do you know what I mean? Like
Totally,
it would be so
totally,
like, like there's always, I think when you're
totally,
out of the environment that your work environment, that's where you get your best ideas at times. Something
totally.
came up for me earlier and I completely forgot it as we were talking, but someone mentioned to me the other day, I mean, there's obviously pay, there's SEO, there's all of that sort of stuff, right? But then someone mentioned to me AEO. Have you heard of the term AEO yet?
And I think that's like kind of SEO in the AI space.
Yeah.
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 So I mean, that's kind of trying to, at a very simple level, it's basically now obviously people are shifting search from kind of Google, your traditional search engine, to, various chatbots, whether it's ChatGPT, Claude, etc. And so now that you, as a company or as a brand, you're trying to appear in those searches, right? So, if I'm a shopper, very basic example, saying like, I'm looking for, you're saying to ChatGPT, I'm looking for a new pair of running shoes, that that are good for marathon running. You as a brand, you want to appear in that search results in the chatbot. Does that make
Mm.
sense?
Yeah, no, it makes total sense. And the reason I was thinking about it was because just back to this freemium piece you were calling out before and this paid component, etc. Like, and another question, and I know we are pivoting around, but that's the formlessness of this podcast. But like, there's obviously benefits for the brand, there's benefits for the creator, and from a monetization piece, if a creator's moving from a hobby into kind of monetizing it, like you must see that a little bit, like a lot, that they don't have the infrastructure. I mean, they don't have the infrastructure, let alone the funds to be like, because from a partnership perspective,
Yeah, yeah, totally. So I think just to kind of give you the numbers, clearly I'm a maths guy, but so from a creator's perspective, so our platform, the way our pricing works today, for a creator to subscribe to our platform, it's $25 a month, and that kind of gives them unlimited access to the platform.
is that
That
USD?
No, 15 USD, so 25
Yeah,
Aussie. Um, in saying that, it's a good point. Most of our users are actually US based. So like I think it's
yeah,
about 80% of our users are US based, but that's that's 25 Aussie or 15 USD. To be honest, when we release the next kind of version of our AI agent, our outbounding agent, that will probably go up to about 50 USD a month. But so if you think about it from the creator's perspective, and this is the feedback we're getting when we speak to customers and why they're happy to pay that, is on average, the size of a brand deal is about 500 US dollars, right? So basically, if you land one brand deal through using Persona, you're basically paying back your subscription,
yeah, 100%.
right? And like we guarantee that if you use Persona for 12 months properly, you will 100% land a brand deal. Um, so it's like the ROI on the tool for the creator is very clear. So they're kind of happy to pay for a tool
Yeah.
like ours.
I think, well, if you get the ROI, it makes complete sense. I've got a couple of final questions for you. You said that majority of your customers are based in the US. Is like the US the leading market? Like, what are you seeing, I guess, comparing it to the Australian market versus, the international market?
Yeah, no, good question. So we are short answer is like with a lot of things kind of in the software space, is I would say the US is slightly more mature when it comes to kind of the creator economy. And what that really means is creators adopting tools and infrastructure to help them become more professionalized and I guess ultimately land more brand deals. Obviously, the US is a much bigger market, and the nature of our software is that we can distribute to the US kind of from day one. So there's no kind of limitation
Yeah.
So like, for example, most of the brands in our database are US brands. Um, in saying that, the Australian creator economy is still like pretty mature relative to a lot of the world. So a lot of like, I mean, on a very real example, a lot of those marketplace apps, like Tribe, The Right Fit, they've been around for quite a long time, and they're Australian companies, and so we were quite at the forefront at that point. But I will say, as a general rule, US creators are probably a little bit more ahead of Australian creators.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. And then my final question, we haven't like talked yet about this. It's better to be a wrong optimist than a right pessimist. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I think that probably applies to both business and general probably happiness or kind of life happiness. So I think obviously from a business perspective, um, I think if you're a founder, obviously you kind of need to be on the spectrum of pessimism and optimism. You need to be more optimistic. In saying that, I think you made a comment earlier, but you still want to be realistic. So I think that there is a balance there.
Yeah.
But I think ultimately, if you I want to be a founder and you kind of want that kind of ownership, you need to be an optimist. And I think if you're kind of happy to fail, obviously, like kind of stating the obvious, if you're happy to fail and consistently fail, then you're probably more suited to being a founder. But I think arguably more importantly, I think that kind of comment is transposed to like general happiness. I think it's probably better being an optimist about life, even if you're wrong or failing, because you're more likely just to get up and keep going versus, a pessimist that's right. I've probably just been in a bad mood all the
Oh, it's so good. No,
time. I just,
it's such a great insight. And it's so true because, like, you meet those and know those pessimists, and they're just when they're always right, and it's like, and it's like, fuck, like seriously, can you just like, okay, you're right. Yep, the world's falling apart. Like AI's taking over. It's gonna
yeah,
take all our jobs. That's it. Like, that's it. Life's like we're cool.
yeah,
And it's so not true. And it's like
so not true.
open, like, for me, it's just open up, like, just stop, like, and I think we just need
Totally.
more of that. We've got enough going on in the world. Like, I think if we can have that, you know, I love the approach, the wrong optimist, the right optimist versus there's quite often a wrong pessimist and a right pessimist.
Definitely.
But
Pessimism doesn't equal right. That's definitely not the case.
no,
But
no, it's a really great observation and insight. So thank you for that. David, how do we find out more about Persona? How do we find out more about what you guys are doing if we're a creator and we're interested in monetizing, moving our, what we're creating from a hobby into actually a monetization?
for
How do we
sure.
find out more?
So you can find us on our website, it's persona.space. Um, and persona is spelled Persona dot
Yep.
space. And you can link out to our socials on our website. My email address is also david@persona.space. So anyone that is interested in the creator economy, I love talking about the creator economy. I've got obviously pretty strong views on the creator economy, so reach out, happy to chat. But yeah,
Thank you. Great conversation. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the creator economy and it's not going anywhere. It just feels like it's, and I love that you're reshaping, exactly what, I guess just reshaping what it looks like from a creative perspective and ultimately reshaping life, leadership, and business. So thank you for coming on the show and have a great week ahead.
thank you. It's great to
Thank
chat.
you.